Humans have spent a century trying to wipe out members of one animal family with poison, bounties, and bullets, and every single time, that family came back stranger, smarter, and harder to kill. 7 of them, starting with the one nobody could exterminate no matter how hard they tried, Coyote. This is the animal every wildlife agency tried to erase and failed. For 100 years, the United States ran poison campaigns, bounty programs, and aerial shooting against this one species, killing an estimated 500,000 a year at the peak. The coyote did not shrink. It expanded. Before 1900, it lived mostly in the plains and deserts of the West. Today, it is found in every U.S. state except Hawaii, including the middle of Chicago, New York's Central Park, and downtown Los Angeles. Researchers studying urban coyotes found something the poison campaigns triggered by accident. Kill enough coyotes in an area, and the survivors breed earlier, have bigger litters, and disperse faster into new territory. Pressure did not reduce the population, it rewired it to expand. And where wolves have vanished, the coyote fills the gap left behind. In parts of the Northeast, it has been quietly interbreeding with wolves for generations, producing an animal now nicknamed the coy wolf, heavier, longer-legged, and more comfortable near people than either parent species alone. Fennec fox. Weighing about as much as a can of soup, this is the smallest wild dog on the planet, and it lives in the harshest desert on Earth, the Sahara. Its ears are almost as long as its own skull, and they are not there for hearing alone. Packed with blood vessels sitting close to the skin, they work as a radiator, dumping body heat into the desert air so the animal can survive daytime temperatures that would kill most mammals. Its kidneys are so efficient at conserving water that a fennec fox can go its entire life without ever taking a drink, pulling every drop of moisture it needs from the bodies of the insects and rodents it eats. Its paws are covered in thick fur, an adaptation that lets it walk across sand hot enough to blister bare skin. And under the dune, it digs dens with tunnel systems reaching 10 feet down, sometimes connected to the burrows of a dozen relatives, a whole colony living beneath the same stretch of sand. Arctic fox. This animal survives temperatures below -50 and does it without shivering until the cold drops far past where almost anything else would already be dead. Its fur is the warmest of any mammal on Earth relative to body size, and its circulatory system runs a trick most mammals cannot. Blood flowing into its legs and paws passes directly beside blood flowing back out, transferring heat before it ever reaches the ground, which is why an Arctic fox can stand on ice for hours without losing its paws to frostbite. Twice a year, its entire coat changes, brilliant white through the winter to vanish into snow, then a thin brown gray through summer to vanish into tundra rock. And in a stretch of behavior that looks almost calculated, Arctic foxes will trail a polar bear across the sea ice for miles, staying a careful distance back, waiting to scavenge the seal carcass a bear leaves behind. One predator following another, living off its leftovers, for the entire hunting season. Dingo. Genetic testing has settled a debate that ran for over a century. This is not a domestic dog gone feral. Dingoes arrived in Australia thousands of years ago and have been evolving on their own trajectory ever since. Distinct enough now that researchers argue it deserves its own classification separate from both wolves and domestic dogs. It rarely barks. Instead, it communicates in long howls that can carry for miles across open country, a sound built for an animal whose territory can stretch over 50 square miles. Removed from an ecosystem, its absence shows up almost immediately. Where dingoes have been fenced out of parts of the country for over a century to protect livestock, kangaroo populations explode without a top predator to check them, and overgrazing follows. Where dingoes remain, smaller invasive predators like foxes and feral cats drop in number because the dingo does not tolerate them in its territory. Remove the top of the chain, and the whole chain rearranges beneath it. Golden jackal. While large carnivores across Europe have spent decades retreating, this one has been doing the opposite, unnoticed. Since the 1980s, it has expanded its range across the continent by thousands of miles, turning up in countries that had no historical record of the species at all. Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark. Wildlife agencies are still working out what to do with an apex predator nobody planned for. Part of the reason is diet. A golden jackal will eat almost anything: fruit, insects, rodents, carrion, and it will adjust its diet entirely to whatever a given landscape offers, which lets it colonize farmland, forest edges, and even the outskirts of cities with equal ease. It hunts mostly in pairs rather than large packs, and those pairs mate for life, holding a joint territory together year after year. Its rise is largely invisible to the public because, unlike a wolf, it rarely takes livestock large enough to make headlines. It simply moves in. Bat-eared fox. Almost everything this animal eats is smaller than a fingernail. Its diet is overwhelmingly harvester termites, sometimes over 1 million insects consumed by a single fox in 1 year, and its ears exist to find them. Enormous relative to its body and packed with hypersensitive hearing, they can pick up the sound of insects moving underground, letting the fox pinpoint a termite chamber through several inches of soil before it ever digs. Its teeth reflect the same specialization. Where most members of the dog family carry around 42 teeth built for tearing meat, the bat-eared fox has as many as 50, small and closely packed for shredding insects rather than flesh, the most teeth of any placental carnivore in the world. It lives in small family groups, and unlike almost every other canid on the continent, the male does the majority of the direct pup rearing, guarding the den and grooming the young while the female forages. Because the food source that sustains this whole species is too small and too scattered to require the cooperative pack hunting that shapes every other dog on this list. Quick pause. If you have made it this far, hit like right now. It genuinely decides whether this video gets shown to anyone else. Colpeo, also called the Andean fox, this is a predator that lives across nearly the entire length of South America, from the equator in Ecuador down to the wind-scoured tip of Patagonia, a north-south range longer than the distance across the continental United States. Along that range, it exists at nearly every elevation the continent offers, from coastal desert up past 14,000 feet in the Andes, tolerating a swing in climate that would require multiple different species almost anywhere else. Farmers have hunted it for generations over suspected livestock losses, yet stomach content studies keep turning up the same result. The colpeo's diet is dominated by rabbits, rodents, and birds, with livestock making up only a small fraction of what it actually eats. In some Andean farming communities, that data has slowly shifted policy, with local governments moving from bounty programs toward protection once the numbers made clear the fox was doing more pest control than damage. So here is the pattern running under all 7 of these animals. A species poisoned for a century that responded by multiplying, a fox the size of a housecat that never drinks water, another that runs on a built-in radiator through ice that would kill almost anything else, a predator that reshapes an entire continent's wildlife just by existing in it. A jackal quietly colonizing a continent nobody is watching. A fox that gave up meat for termites and let the fathers raise the young. And a fox stretched across an entire hemisphere, cleared of blame only once someone finally checked what was actually in its stomach. Every one of them is still, technically, just a dog. So what does that word even mean anymore? Put your answer in the comments.